Hey guys, it's yours truly coming back at you all with another one, and today, as requested, I have for you all not one, but four DDD deck profiles to show off for you guys. Three of which are what I were working on, as you saw in the combo video, to be able to summon each variant of the kings. And the fourth one is DDD Daves that I showcase for you guys, so you can see exactly what he plays and what his team and his lab came up with. And then that would lead to my next video showing you how to break boards and decks that can actually make those kinds of boards. And let's get right to it. And what I did is I stripped each deck down to the bare skeleton so that you guys can see what is needed bare minimum to execute these combos consistently. And I put in the side deck the cards that I played to test them out, and I quote, "This is not the final result of the DDD deck that I will construct and be playing with. These were just formulated to execute the summon of the three kings in their various levels and ranks in a single turn. That's all these three were made for." Alright, now let's get to it. For the first one, to be able to summon the original three kings, the rank 4, the fusion 6, and the synchro 7, you would need 3 copies of Burfomet, 3 copies of Night Howl, 3 copies of Swirl Slime, 1 copy of Vice Typhon, 2 copies of Orthros, 3 Kepler, 2 Thomas, 2 Ragnarok, 2 Allure, 3 Gate, 2 Swamp King, 1 Burial, Foolish Burial. I gotta remember there are more than 1 Burial now. 1 for 1, 1 Trade-in, and 2 Where Art Thou, leaving you with 9 cards you can splash in your own unique combo, tech cards, whatever you want to input inside there to make the deck all your own. You also have space in the extra deck for 2 more, so depending on what it is you want to play, you can splash it in there. But in the extra deck, you need at least 1 High King Genghis, 2 Flame King Genghis, 1 Purple Armageddon, 1 Gus High King Alexander, 1 Gus King Alexander, 1 Bright Armageddon, 1 Kali Yuga, 1 High King Caesar, 1 Wave King Caesar, 1 Dark Armageddon, and 2 Gilgamesh. And in the side deck, I was playing in the variant up there, 1 Dark Magician and 2 Magician Souls just for consistency. I also played 3 copies of Called by the Grave. These were just, like I said, for testing. And for sure you need to play 3. I feel it's required that you play 3 because DDD combos, they can be disrupted by a single DD Crow, Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, and it can cause your combos not to go off as you intended, and then you would have to make an alteration play and try to make something that's gonna actually be some sort of threat to your opponent if you possibly can. But if it's disrupted somewhere midway through the combo or something like that, it can really hurt. So I feel 3 copies of Called by the Grave should be necessary. You don't have to play it. That's just my opinion. That's why I have it down in the side deck. I also played 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Like I said, you don't have to play these cards. This is just my opinion. You don't have to take it. You can end up in the scenario and then just wish you had the cards in deck. But I play this card in case of decks that can produce infinite negates, such as you would have seen with Raid Raptors, and also the variant that DDD Dave's deck can produce on the field. Just having Dark Ruler No More is so invaluable. Just being able to play this, neutralize all the monster effects on board, and then being able to go off on your combo plays. Also, when you do make your 3 kings, the King Caesar, the King Alexander, and the King Genghis, you can then link into what's his name again? Gilgamesh, and using Genghis and King Caesar. And King Caesar, when he hits the grave, would then get you the Swamp King. So you can set your scale off of Gilgamesh's effect so that you can pendulum summon if need be, depending on what you set in the scale, whether you go Arthros or Thomas and try to make a rank 8 or just get more monsters on board. You can then play the Swarm King and then fuse into Caesar Ragnarok, and his effect is really good. When he engages in an attack, he can send one DDD contract or DDD card back to your hand and then equip one of the opponent's monsters to him, and he gains attack equal to that monster's original attack, and then he can then continue on with the battle phase, meaning that if your opponent has a real powerhouse on board, you already negated all the effects, you can equip it to him. He can potentially end up over 6 grand, and that's a whole whopping a lot of attack points, and you -1 of your opponent's side of the field. Plus you would also have the Gilgamesh and the Alexander still in play for additional damage, depending on what you placed into your scales and what you have in your hand. You can further push the board to do more damage. You can also play Upstart for the draw power. You can cut out, if you don't want to play 3 copies of either the Called by the Grave or the Dark Ruler no more, you can include 1 Upstart for consistency. You can also splash in another High King Genghis, the Caesar Ragnarok, like I stated moments ago, and an additional copy, and a copy of Siegfried into the extra deck. All depends on how you feel like playing the deck, but that is what I had in there to play the original copy. And onto the High Kings variant to be able to break out your High Kings. We're going to go with 3 Necro Slime, 3 Night Howling, 3 Swirl Slime, 3 copies of Vice Typhoon, 3 Kepler, 2 Newtons, 2 Apocalypse, 2 Armageddon, 2 A Law of Darkness, 3 Gates, 2 Swarm King, 1 Foolish, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 1-for-1, and 2 Sacred Sword of 7. In the extra deck, you go 2 High King Genghis, 2 Flame King Genghis, 1 Purple Armageddon, 1 High King Alexander, 1 Bright Armageddon, 1 Kali-Yuga, 1 High King Caesar, 1 Dark Armageddon, 1 Cross Sheep, and 2 Gilgamesh. And in the side deck that I was originally playing in the deck, the 6 cards that I took out were the, well, you don't have to guess it, it's simplistic: 3 Called by the Grave and 3 Dark Ruler no more. You can also include Upstart, like I said, if you don't want to play 3 copies of those cards. You can also include into the extra deck a Beowulf if you want, a Caesar Ragnarok, and another High King Alexander. All depends on how you want to play the deck and make it all your own. But this is the bare skeleton and what you need to execute the deck the way that I did in those in the combo video. And on to the third one for your Doom Kings. You would play 3 copies of Ghost, 2 Lamia, 3 Swirl Slime, 3 Vice Typhoon, 3 Kepler, 1 Newton, 2 Armageddon, 3 Ragnarok, 2 Allure, 3 Gate, 2 Swarm King, 1 1-for-1, 1 Sacred Sword of 7 stars, 2 Trade In, 1 Upstart. And in the extra deck, you would play 1 Beowulf, 2 High King Genghis, 2 Purple Armageddon, 1 High King Alexander, 2 Bright Armageddon, 1 Kali-Yuga, 2 Dark Armageddon, Cross Sheep, the Crystron, Hycroplex, however the hell you pronounce that. Anyway, the Crystron, the Link 2, and 1 copy of Gilgamesh. And like I said, these decks are focused on summoning your Super Dome Kings. You don't have to play 2 copies of them. I just play 2 copies so that when Gilgamesh hits the graveyard by my opponent's bad luck card effect, I just bring out the one that they destroyed or the one that I'm missing to complete the combo of having all 3 of them in play. And in the side deck, to complete the deck, I was actually playing a Dark Magician and 2 Magician Souls, like I said, for consistency. I was also playing 2 copies of Called by the Grave, as well as 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More, along with 3 copies of Pendulum Fusion. The reason why I was playing Pendulum Fusion, because it gave me the option to fuse from my Pendulum scale as well. So if you're incorporating Pendulum Fusion, you would take out the 2 Swarm Kings for the 3 copies of Pendulum Fusion, and then add in the 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More, Called by the Grave, Magician Souls, and the 1 Dark Magician, which would complete the deck. And you can also put in the Caesar Ragnarok into the extra deck, or another copy of Gilgamesh. It's all up to you and how you want to splash, or what you want to splash into the deck to make it all your own. And for DDD Dave Skeleton, the skeleton plays 2 copies of Ghost, 3 Lamia, 3 Necro Slime, 3 Swirl Slime, 3 Kepler, 2 Apocalypse, 3 Ragnarok, 2 A Law of Darkness. In his, he played 3, but in this we were only allowed 2. Also 3 Called by the Grave. And I guess our feelings or our sentiments are exactly the same. We hate hand traps against DDDs. 3 Gates, 1 Swarm King, 1 for 1, 3 Pot of Desires, which I will do a separate video on why I do not play Desires in this game, and 1 Upstart. And in the extra deck, you play at least 1 copy of the High King Genghis and 2 copies of the Flame King Genghis. Then you play 1 copy of Savage Dragon, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Siegfried, 1 Gus King Alexander, 1 Formula Synchron, 1 Satellite Warrior, 1 Kalyuga, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Crystron, Link 2, and the Gilgamesh. And things that you can splash in for the different variants, as you have an Artifact variant, a Buster Blader Lock variant, and a Restrict Eyes variant that you can incorporate, and I'll explain them right now. The Artifact variant you can use, you would go into, what's this again, Dagda, and you'd use Dagda to set your artifact, and then during the following turn, once you went into Kalyuga, you would then activate Kalyuga's effect to Heavy Storm, and then chain Dagda's effect again so that you can set Moral Tag, and then when Kalyuga's effect resolves, it's going to pop these 2. You're then going to get an additional pop from Moral Attack, and then Scythe is going to lock your opponent out their extra deck for the rest of that turn. That's the Artifact engine that you can incorporate. For the Buster Blader combo, you would use Union Carrier or make Union Carrier, and then you would then equip either one of the Buster, well, either one of the Destruction Swords. You can either lock your opponent out of their extra deck. You can stop face-up spell and trap card effects, such even pendulums, from activating their effects, and you can stop monster effects that activate in the graveyard. That's the Destruction Sword log that you can do with DDDs using Union Carrier. And for the Restrict Eyes, you would just play Instant Fusion. Make one of the restricts, whichever one you prefer. Millennium, I think, goes off of when a monster effect activates. You can equip one monster your opponent controls and equip it to him. You would gain attack and defense equal to it. And also monsters of that name cannot activate their effects or declare an attack. Or you can use the original Thousand Eyes restrict. Equip one of your opponent's monsters to him. He gains the attack, but they are both destroyed during the end phase. But to get around that, you would just link into the Link Karibo 1-2 have done so. And that is just 3 variants that you can make with DDDs that you can incorporate. You can incorporate them with basically any DDD skeleton that I showed you before as well. It just depends on how you feel like playing the deck, splashing in cards to make it all your own. And that's it for the deck recipes. The board that his skeleton can make is a Savage, Crystal, Siegfried on board, and Satellite Warrior to actually interact and pop 3 cards. You could also include Rising or Riser. It's a Synchro 7. Shooting Riser. I should have that. Not card text. Should be able to find it. Where is it? There we go. Shooting Riser Dragon. You can swap out the Crystron for Riser. Use Riser's effect to dump something, and then conduct a synchro summon during that same turn. Whether you want to go for Savage. Yeah, I think it's to go for Savage. You can also incorporate Riser if you want. Dump something, a DDD to the graveyard, maybe a Necro Slime for an additional fusion, and then depending on what you have on board, you can just, let's say you have the Swirl Slime on board. When you dump the Necro Slime, it's going to reduce the Riser by 1, so it's going to be a 6, and then you can synchro into your Savage, and then you can equip any of the linked monsters that are in your graveyard to him, and then end up with an additional 2 negates. And like I said, I'm going to show you guys cards in the next video to be able to prevent, disrupt, and break boards or decks that can produce boards like this. So until next time, guys, later.